What's up, Monarchs? Mr. Tomei here. Back at it again. It's May 19th. It's a little later in the afternoon. I just got back from the cap and gown distribution for the seniors. So it was pretty cool to get outside and kind of slowly start getting back to normal here. About 3:30, so I'll try and get this video posted up by 4:30 or so. We're moving into our new unit today, which is it's really kind of a mini unit. It's like a last unit. This last unit will take about 2 weeks. So we'll be done. Let's pop up the calendar here. We'll be done around the 29th of May would be my guess, or early June. And at that point, we'll just prep for the final. We'll talk more about that and so forth. So what we're going to do for this unit is we're going to take you pretty much from where the Cold War ends up to today. I'm going to sprinkle in a few other things from the 20th century that we don't get a ton of time to talk over. Like today's lesson's kind of a sadder one. It's about genocides. And we'll then talk about a few other things, and it will take us all the way up to coronavirus. So that's kind of this last mini unit. So today's video, we're going to be talking about genocides and violence that occurred in the 20th century. And it will take us up to about slide 7. These slides I'll post on the classroom as well, too, when I post the video. So let's go for it. Before we even begin, the reason we start with genocides is because a common theme throughout history is that oftentimes the most historic events that we study, and oftentimes the ones that have the most consequences, deal with violence. If we look, what has our past semester been? The Cold War, World War II, right? World War I, right? So these units that we study and we look at, they all have to deal with kind of the dark parts of like history, because so much changes when violence occurs, because we often try not to repeat violence. However, the most common theme throughout history is violence. So ironically, we never really seem to learn our lesson. But there's a few other mass genocides I just think you should be aware about in case you hear them on the news. They play some role in landscapes, not so much for Americans, but around the world. If you go to other parts of the world, they're more important. So I just want to introduce you to a few. The first one is the Cambodian genocide. This is kind of a fallout of Vietnam, what happens in Vietnam. This is from 1975 to 1979. Pretty much similar to what happened in Vietnam. Cambodia went through a civil war. The winning side of the civil war was the Khmer Rouge. That's French for red communists. Remember, Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, they were once a part of French Indochina, so the French language and culture is a big part of like a kind of morphed cultures. The Khmer Rouge was kind of led by this guy, Pol Pot. He pretty much began killing anyone who was associated with the old government or anyone who really was against the Khmer Rouge. In the end, it's estimated about 2 million people were killed in this time period. And Pol Pot is often in the same conversations when we talk about like worst tyrannical mass murderer dictator leaders like Stalin, Hitler. Pol Pot's name often gets mentioned. And so there's books and films on the Cambodian genocide. Unfortunately, what the state wants you to learn, there's just not enough time to really go into the full details of it. But there's stuff on it there's a lot of good stuff on it that you can find online if you are interested about it. So oftentimes what would happen, this is like from a clip, the killing fields. And what would happen is oftentimes prisoners would be taken out to the fields, and they would be, mass murdered. And so these kind of paddy fields that used to be like rice paddy fields and stuff, became killing fields. And like this is the discovery in the film of a mass like grave. So yeah, pretty sad. Um, let's talk about some conflicts in Africa. After World War II, most African countries became independent. However, because of kind of the effects of imperialism, a lot of the continent was left stripped of their economic resources, their valuable natural resources, and kind of people were left in poverty. Um, as a result, when there's poverty, different factions rise up to try and take power and restore some type of balance, or at least try to secure their own fortunes. So a lot of different conflicts have arisen in Africa, and power struggles continue to this day. Um, Probably most infamously, the Rwandan genocide. We talked about that months ago, back in the imperialism era. That left 1 million dead over the course of a month, in a very small country. Other places like Somalia, Chad, Sudan have been in constant civil wars and conflict, pretty much ever since they became countries after um, World War II and such. So there's not enough time to talk about African history, at least modern African history. You could take a class on that one day in college. There's just not enough time. We could spend a very, very long time talking about it. But just know that there are a lot of conflicts that stem from imperialism, that are even going on to this day, like in Sudan in Africa. Um, a little bit, since this class is more of Eurocentric focus, we'll talk a little bit more about Yugoslavia. So Yugoslavia was a country that existed from 1918 to 1992. It's what came out of the Balkan region. Remember the countries like Serbia, Bosnia, Croatia, Albania, etc. Kind of that area. A lot of those countries made up, which are now those independent countries, used to be a part of Yugoslavia. Um, this region's very diverse. This region naturally kind of gravitated towards communism. Um, there's a lot of like a Slavic kind of connection between the Russian people and the people of the Balkan states. There's like a Slavic connection. So there's more cultural similarities. And the Soviet Union uh, was supportive of them, kind of in their struggle for trying to, have freedom and form their own countries. So originally, what formed is these diverse states decided to form one union. They formed Yugoslavia. But unfortunately, because this region is so diverse, eventually a lot of people want to become independent. A lot of these countries want to become independent. And that kind of leads to problems. So then we get to the 90s. The Cold War has ended. The Soviet Union is no longer an ally for the Yugoslavic Republic. And so, without kind of any support, Yugoslavia, which that area of Europe is generally more of a poor area, um, without any kind of support from the Soviet Union, they begin to kind of, implode. And so we get about a 3-year period of the Yugoslav Wars, or the Balkan Wars, as sometimes they're called. Pretty much groups in Yugoslavia began fighting each other for territory and resources. A lot of people were killed. One group in particular, the Bosnians, were hunted down and killed in a genocide. Specifically speaking, it was the Muslim population, who were hunted down and killed in mass genocide. When the wars finally ended, about 150,000 people were killed, and now Yugoslavia is made up of 6 countries. And so if we show you here, the last slide for the day, you have Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, Montenegro, and Macedonia. Kosovo is kind of the 7th country, but it's not fully internationally recognized. But Kosovo is kind of another country that you could argue is independent, or at least they would say is independent. But the point of this being is that this is a very diverse place. The ramifications of this have been, a lot of these countries have tried to rebuild, are trying to be, considered more level and equal with a lot of the other European countries, which they haven't historically been. You probably, if for those who are soccer fans, you know about Croatia because they were in the last World Cup final. Um, and kind of a big thing that I like about this map is it shows you the shadings of the map show the major religions uh, that are followed in each region. So you see, like in Kosovo and then Bosnia and Herzegovina, you see predominantly Muslim. You see mostly Catholic, the Slovenians and the Croatians, and then you see Eastern Orthodox, which is kind of a play on Catholicism. Which is going to be Macedonia, Serbia, Montenegro. Religion oftentimes plays a huge role in violence and genocide. Um, you know, for years, honestly, thousands of years, Catholics, even to this day, you can make the argument Christians, Catholics have been at war with like Muslims, right? Over literal war, ideologies, ways of life, cultural value differences. Um, Religion has done a lot of damage to the world in terms of violence, fighting for superiority. So I think this showing you this map of the colors of the main religions also kind of important because this area is no bigger than I'd say it's probably maybe two-thirds the size of California, but you see a ton of different factions and groups and religions, so it's kind of wild. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the share here. Um, I'll go ahead and post this video soon. Be on the lookout. Keep doing what you got to do. Check in with me. Keep your head in the game. We're almost there. Stay positive. We got good weather. Things are coming back to normal. I'm hearing sports might be coming back in June. So there's a lot of good news coming out. So just try and stay positive right now. Okay. Um, Keep it real. Go get your own rainbow mask. It's fire. Cost me like, cool, like $5 on Amazon. You know how I roll. Besides that, stay safe and take care.